Well, the entire country is closely watching the Ohio Senate race between Republican J.D. Vance and Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan, who are vying for the open Senate seat between being vacated by Republican Rob Portman. And at a time when Americans are struggling with inflation hitting a 40-year high, our next guest says the President Biden and Tim Ryan are to blame. We'll hear with more is businessman, best-selling author, and the Republican nominee for the Ohio Senate seat, J.D. Vance. J.D., welcome back to the show. It's good to see you this evening. I will say just yesterday, we got news that the inflation that hit a new high, 9.1% in June, even worse than expected of 8.8%. You've said that your opponent, Tim Ryan, and the entire Democratic Party is responsible for this by spending money that we don't have instead of rebuilding our broken economy. I will say the line that Democrats keep touting is that our economy is strong. They say, you know, no matter what you're seeing, our economy is very strong right now. Is that line resonating with voters that you talk with?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you have millions of people who have just dropped out of the labor force entirely. Everything's getting more expensive. And so, you know, if you're getting a 3% wage raise at work, you're actually getting 6% poorer because of the 9% inflation. And I think people get that they're working harder and they're becoming poorer, even if their paychecks are increasing a little bit. It's not nearly enough to make up for the Biden inflation. And in our state of Ohio, you have a guy, Tim Ryan, who's actually voted with Joe Biden 100% of the time, with Nancy Pelosi, with AOC, 95+% of the time. And so I think in Ohio, we both blame the president, but we also blame failed congressional leadership that should have been doing something about this in Congress, and they've just totally failed to do that.
JD, there's this absolutely heart-wrenching story that's making waves about this young 10-year-old girl who was pregnant, and it turns out that she was raped by a man, Gerson Fuentes. He was a 27-year-old man that was in this country illegally, who was living in Ohio. I think the bigger question that I think is getting missed in this debate to some degree, because again, obviously, in the light of Roe versus Wade, we're focusing on that part of it, and rightly so. It's horrible what happened. I get it. But there's also an immigration piece that's not getting told. We have 50 people that have come into the country this year already on the terrorist watch list. This is the downside, aside from the fentanyl and everything else that we talk about, and the consequences of illegal immigration. And I guess the question I'm trying to get at is, this is what, when folks on the right talk about the problems of illegal immigration and the consequences of it, this is it. And how do we get that out more?
Well, I think we have to call out the hypocrisy from the left on this, Sean. They always say that their immigration policies are compassionate, but what their immigration policies have in fact done is, in my home state of Ohio, allowed an incredibly grotesque crime to happen to a 10-year-old kid because we let a criminal who should never have been in this country in the first place not just come here, but stay here. And frankly, if he hadn't committed this terrible crime, probably stayed here indefinitely. What happened was incredibly heartbreaking. And I have 3 young kids of myself. I don't want them living on Ohio streets with people who shouldn't be here in the first place and are committing crimes like this. This is the price of what the Democrats call compassion. Misery, crime, death through fentanyl. That's the price of the Democrats' border policies. They know this. The people of Ohio know this. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Democrats deserve to get punished and will get punished come November.
I do want to talk with you about this CHIPS bill, this China competitiveness bill right now that's in the Senate. It's actually become a key issue in the Ohio Senate race. So the bill that is currently in Congress would provide $52 billion in funding to semiconductor manufacturers and other technological investments in the U.S. Your opponent, Democrat representative, as we've been talking about, Tim Ryan, he said that not passing this CHIPS Act is a full frontal attack on the state of Ohio. He even declared that every Republican in Central Ohio and every voter in Ohio will know that Mitch McConnell blew this off, and I'm going to hang it on J.D. Vance, so he says. Are you concerned with this line of attack?
Well, I'm not concerned at all with the line of attack. I am concerned that the CHIPS Act appears not to get passed here, which would be very good for the state of Ohio. But it's a bizarre line of attack for Tim Ryan for the simple reason that his party controls everything in the government right now. If you control the House and you control the Senate and you control the presidency, a failed piece of legislation is on you, not on the guy who's not in yet the U.S. Senate. So it's one of these weird things where Tim Ryan does something terrible. He does something that fails the people of Ohio. And he sort of says, look over here, J.D. Vance is the problem, when it's staring people in the face that if he was an effective legislator, we would have the CHIPS Act in Ohio, and it would be good for the state.
You know, it's funny. We had Rick Scott, senator from Florida, on yesterday. He actually isn't a big fan of the bill. He thinks that it doesn't guarantee support for U.S. companies. Is that a concern that you share?
Well, I certainly don't think that the legislation is perfect, and Rick is right that the Democrats have layered on top of it a number of things that are not good, that frankly shouldn't be in the bill and have nothing to do with semiconductor manufacturing. But I don't think we can let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And maybe Rick is right that it's not a good piece of legislation for Florida. I do think it's a good piece of legislation for Ohio, though.
Before we let you go real quick, Tim Ryan has some internal statistical showing that you guys are in a dead heat right now. What is your inside stat showing? Are you guys in a dead heat? Only about 30 seconds.
No, I think we're winning this race, and I think it's kind of pathetic, frankly, that this guy's spending $1.5 million a week on TV. We're not spending anything on TV yet, and yet his own polling is showing that we're in a tie. That suggests that I think we're going to win this race. We've got to do the work. We can't let people in Ohio get complacent. But Tim Ryan has been a failure because he supported a failed presidency. We need to make that clear, and the voters of Ohio aren't going to stand for it.
All right, J.D. Vance, thank you very much. We'll check back in soon.
Thank you both.